All right, sir. Here we are again.
So too. Stoked. A little less tumultuous and loud, quiet.
Then
It's quiet and serene.
just an hour or two ago, or what are you comparing it to?
An hour or two ago, probably.
Just how wild of a night we've had.
Left ear's ringing still.
Yeah, woo girls are toxic.
The worst.
Yeah, they're all the same.
Oh, God.
They're just terrible.
Like, I wish there was a volume restraint
Yeah.
control at restaurants and bowling alleys where we could all be civil, we could all be polite,
Yeah.
we could all have a damn good time.
Well, like with that one girl, there was no in between. I was kind of thinking for a moment, like, can I turn her up? I can't even understand her. And then I must have held the volume button too far, and she just went up to max and never went down. Because before you know it, she's just yelling, screaming, just freaking out about every little goddamn thing. It's like, why?
There's just what's her mindset, because she wasn't the one. If it's the same woman you were talking about,
Yeah.
she didn't have any alcohol. She was just naturally.
She had like
super
one,
loud.
yeah, like even before she even had a sip of alcohol, just completely a new person
Absolutely.
once other people arrived.
Yeah. I mean, just imagine living in a society in which everything across the board is just quieter. Thank you.
Can't imagine.
It's just quieter, and it's just more peaceful and serene and tranquil, you know. And I'm not saying we can't have spaces where it's super loud and everything, but man, like a few hours ago, it was just fucking my left ear shot. And, like, it's gonna come back, and in the morning.
It should. I mean, for you to just lose your hearing over that would be kind of insane.
That would be depressing. Just downright.
Say you're very fragile if that was the case.
Went deaf in one ear because I went to a bowling alley in Moose Lake, Minnesota.
Yeah.
This group of girls, the Woo Girls.
The Woo Girls did me in.
They did me in, man.
I lost.
There's too much woo.
You know.
It's like you can lose half your hearing in a more badass way, like Monster Jams.
Yeah, so I was kind of
If
thinking.
you lose your hearing at Monster Jams.
You weren't even at war or at a concert or anything, you know.
Concert, Monster Jams, yeah.
I was at a bowling alley, and
a bowling alley in the middle of buttfuck Egypt, northern Minnesota.
I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Just,
I'm losing my hearing.
you can't. And
It's because you didn't want to drink.
I couldn't sit at the bar. And
Well, that was loud, I'm sure.
Just watch. No, it was very quiet. I was trying to watch the Wild game, and then the same woman who you were talking about came over and
Oh yeah.
just kept. She's like, "Do you want to come back? Do you want to come back? Like, come on. We're having a good time. You gotta watch this ball." And
Why
it's just
aren't you-
her laugh. Her was so
Yeah.
high pitched, and it was like 6 to 8 inches away from my left ear, and she never was even considered enough to balance it out. She didn't
Yeah.
go on the right and scream. She was always on the left. Just fuck
Yeah.
Jesus.
You know, she could at least like lean in close and be like, "Hey, baby, I'm sorry about that.
Some libertarian ASMR. And
I'm very sorry. Taxation is theft."
Epstein didn't kill himself.
You know, if she would have said one thing like that, you'd have been like, all of this is worth it.
Oh, absolutely.
All of a sudden, your ears are just, they feel good.
Just be like, hey, I know you're watching the Wild game, but the thing is, when the supply of a resource is dwindling, but the demand for that particular resource is increasing significantly,
Your prices are going to skyrocket.
prices will necessarily increase of that particular resource or product.
Yeah.
I would have been like,
that's so
oh
hot.
my God.
Oh my God.
I won the jackpot. Won
Yeah.
the lottery.
Winner. So, what was your name again? You're coming home with me.
Yeah.
All of a sudden.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a damn plague, these Woo Girls. They're everywhere. What do you do about them?
No. They're
You know?
almost as...
You don't know their story, though.
Yeah.
You don't know their story.
You know my story,
You
right?
don't know my story.
Okay? Like,
You don't know her story.
fucking Brad, he was
You don't
an
know my
asshole.
story.
He was such a shithead. You don't know my story.
Think the world of me.
I have a well-developed backstory.
Well,
That's perfect. That's pretty much what they're trying to say. Is like, I I'm not going to tell you anything. I
slightly-
just want to make you
Yeah,
interested.
yeah.
So, like, I tried to act interested. I'm like, well, what am I missing? What's the story?
Yeah.
And it's like, she didn't like the way
Yeah.
I framed it, so
Yeah.
she just
Yeah.
walks away.
When you're open,
just
when
walks
you're open
away.
like that. They're like, well, like, you don't know my story.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what's your story?
Yep.
And even if it's not traumatic and they don't tell you, it's like, what?
Yeah. Well, because they were all mad at me because of whatever reason.
Yeah.
You know what you said. They tell me that I know what I said. I'm like, well, no, and I'm like, actually, I don't. Can you tell me? And they're just nothing. Just
No
nothing.
moral
I'm like,
application from their side whatsoever.
I don't even know what it was that I said.
Broadly and vaguely and generally disrespectful, Ryan.
I'm just a terrible person. Well, because I said, oh, gutter. Like, you got 2 gutters in a row. That was funny. Like, I don't.
She's like, and she starts laughing like.
It's like I'm shaming her. I was just like,
But-
oh.
But people who do.
Oh, yeah, she was being mean to me. If I get a gutter, she's just like, oh, you suck. Like, she literally said that. Like, oh, you suck.
Oh, someone sucks.
And then I say, oh, you get a gutter.
You got a couple gutters in a row.
Shame. How dare you?
Anybody who
How
gets
dare
2
you.
gutters in a row is worthy of shame.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I got 2
Tar and
gutters,
feather them.
if I
Tar and
got 2
feather them.
gutters, be like, "Pff, you couldn't even hit one. Like, Brandon could hit one consistently. Like, you couldn't even hit one.
Just hitting that one pin in the right
He
corner.
hit the one
4
every
times in a
time.
row.
Yeah.
On the like the start of the frame.
Yeah, 3. Yeah, at least 3 frames in a row, just one.
Fuck.
The same pin. The same pin. Consistency. That's what really matters.
Yeah.
You know, if you're consistent, you know what to
yeah,
expect out of people. You
Yeah.
know, your best workers are your consistent workers.
Absolutely.
Like, even if they fuck certain shit up, you know they're gonna fuck that shit up.
Yeah.
You just take care of it.
Definitely.
But if they're all over the place and they're inconsistent, you're like, what the fuck? Like, consistency's key.
Yeah.
Even if
I'm
you're,
so inconsistent at bowling.
I could see that.
Quite a few things, man. I'll get a few 9s and then I'll just get 1s, 2s.
Yeah.
And then I try to hit triple digits, and if I do, I basically call myself Jesus Christ. And if I don't, I'm like, well, I fucking suck at bowling anyways. So
Yeah.
it's either side of that, score.
Hmm.
Jesus. Fucking. So who is the worst? Woo girls, environmentalists, or feminists? Assuming they don't,
They don't all mix together. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess the worst would be a wooing environmental feminist,
Oh,
right?
Jesus Christ. Probably living in Toronto, Canada, just has a trust fund, but is like protesting.
Woo! All the ice caps are gonna melt. Oh my god! The patriarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like just one thing after another.
It was like, the worst was when that one student came on Neil Cavuto's show on Fox Business Network,
Yes,
and she
yeah.
talked about how college needs to be free, and Neil Cavuto was basically like, okay, you say it's gonna be free, well, how are we gonna pay for it? And
Yeah,
she just started talking about like the 1%, like whatever, and he said, okay, if you tax them at this rate, then it's still
You don't have
wouldn't
enough
pay for-
money.
it
Yeah.
still wouldn't pay for 3/4 of what you're asking, and she didn't really have a response to that. And come to find out, obviously her parents are very wealthy.
Yeah.
She probably has a trust fund,
Yep.
right? So she's totally acting on behalf of all these victims, but she has a trust fund, for fuck's sake.
Right. Well, I would think that her family would end up being the 1%, based on what I heard, because anybody who's over $350,000 a year
Yeah.
is in the 1%.
Oh yeah, that's so much money. If
I
you're
used to
frugal,
think it's like
that's so
you're
much money.
you're millionaires. Like Bernie Sanders is the 1%.
He has 3 houses.
He is
Flies
the
private,
1%.
Has never worked a job. He got kicked out of a fucking commune.
Yeah. Yep.
Commune.
That's-
How do you?
I know.
You just talked about organizing, and then they said you're gone.
You appeal to people by saying, I'm going to go after the top 1% of 1%, because
Yeah.
I don't want to get just the 1%, because that's me,
Yeah.
but we got to get this other fraction of a percent, because that's going to make all the difference.
Exactly. And the poorest of the poor in Western civilized countries are living better than 99.99999% of all Homo sapiens dating back, I don't know, 160,000 years ago or something like that.
You're talking about the poor in the U.S.?
Yeah. Yeah. For
Sure.
sure. But if you have a bed, a cell phone,
Yeah.
vehicle of some sort, or transportation.
Obama phone or something.
Yeah, a climate, and are living in a climate-controlled setting. You're living better than kings did, or royals did, a century and a half ago.
Well, I mean, to get hot food delivered to you and you could weigh well over 200, 300 pounds, like that was pretty much restricted to kings. I mean, if you wanted to be able to sit on your ass and had hot food brought to you, that was no nobility getting that. Not just any random schmuck that had $15, $20.
Yeah.
Like,
even if Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller wanted to go to Europe, they would have to wait a few weeks. Now it's just like 7 hours if you want to go to Europe.
You
could, through a flight.
Right.
Life is so convenient right now. It's ridiculous, and it's making us complacent. It really is.
It is.
To a great degree, collectively, of course.
Well, because just think, before you could hunt for maybe hours and be lucky if you get food. Now today, you can work 2 hours and you have a meal. 2 hours worth of work, and it's guaranteed. It's guaranteed that you will be able to feed yourself based off of 2 hours of labor.
Exactly.
So I don't understand how somehow things are worse now than they were before. When we had to forage and do all that shit, farming, you name it. And now today we hate this shit. I absolutely just get raging fucking mad when I walk in a grocery store and I see all this goddamn shit everywhere. I want to just start flipping shelves and just say, this is absolute madness. I mean, these prices, this is insane. It's too affordable. Like, I hate it. That's what I hear when I hear fucking commies just be like,
life is so bad, like life is terrible.
Well, and they think like, there's just all this waste coming because there's just this overabundance. It's like, not really. I mean, people, like, especially grocery stores, they want to order what they're going to sell. They're not just going to be like, we're going to order 5 billion fucking bananas, and if we sell 2% of them, that's fine. Because we'll just throw it away because we're making money regardless.
For sure.
It's like, that's not how any of it works.
Exactly.
There's not that much waste. There is waste, but then there's also the reason you can't just give it out to people is all that's regulated by government. I know that maybe I'm just all of a sudden going off on some crazy fucking
go
shit.
ahead, man.
But I've been thinking about this recently. I tried to give any of my wasted product from PJ's. I tried to set it up with the food shelf where I would make food and bring it down there and they could just give it out. They didn't set that deal up with me. It's very hard to be able to just give out food to people. It's not a simple task.
And if you try to feed the homeless like that 90-year-old chef in Florida, it basically shows how him getting arrested for feeding the homeless in a public park, as I understand it, it just shows that we live in a truly permissive society where you can't even feed the fucking homeless without getting it signed off by bureaucrats and politicians and all these people in suits and ties.
And that's what I mean by it's challenging, is ultimately the government gets in the way. It's not like it's hard for me to whip something out and give it to somebody, but if I don't want to get in trouble and have repercussions, I can't just do that.
Exactly.
You have to go through the right process. You have to be licensed. You got to do this, and that. You can only serve certain things, and if they don't like what you're doing, they'll shut you down. They'll throw all the food away, and they'll pour bleach on it so nobody can have it.
Well, allowing people to get food to the poor, or
exactly.
People that can allow you to like defend yourselves. You can't. If someone punches you in the face, you cannot punch them back. Otherwise, you're part of the crime.
Well, when you look at history, and you see what government's done when you give them so much power over every aspect of your life, I don't think that you can point to anything and say, yeah, that really worked out well.
Exactly.
It usually ends up with a lot of people dead because it's simple. You get certain people that get in your way, and you just have to kill them.
And it just expands like.
What do you do besides that? Because you can't convince them in your utopia that they're not getting on board with.
And once you don't nip it in the bud, in terms of the principle of every infringement of rights, and you say, oh well, we're gonna allow this much. We're gonna let the state occupy this much of our personal lives and what have you, and take this much of our earned annual income.
Right.
It's only going to expand. We see this when it comes to reform, especially education reform, gun reform, or gun control reform, whatever.
Yeah.
Health reform, healthcare reform. It's like you guys have reformed it hundreds, if not thousands of times over the past 5 or 6 decades. You think if it was such an easy thing to do, you could have put your heads together and figured this shit out by now, but you can't, or you rather won't,
Right.
because
there's really not a solution.
You can't solve the problem as bureaucrats and politicians.
Yeah.
The private sector, individuals who are voluntarists, they're gonna be the ones who come together and solve these problems. And
sorry, continue.
I don't know where I was going, dude. You got me started.
No, I'm in total agreement with you, because it's not like all of a sudden now with guns people started killing each other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think you can look throughout history and see there were some pretty bloody times without guns, because people could just behead you or do whatever else. They just rip you drawn and quartered. There's just so many examples we could run through.
Definitely.
Burning people alive, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
I think far more savage than just putting a bullet through somebody. But I think, we were very cruel, evil. Video games had no influence, any of that stuff. So it's just like,
how did we change?
Something shifted somewhere along the way that we're not as bad as we used to be. I'm not saying we're perfect, but we can't just say, oh, we're awful because of this. It's like, no, we've always been awful.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
definitely. Especially when leftists and statists in general try to say it's guns. Going back to the 40s and 50s, you could get the guns that are being heavily restricted or banned now, and there were few, if any, regulations.
Right.
Really. And there weren't the rates of mass shootings in those days weren't anywhere close to what they are now. So it's like, what changed along the way?
Right.
And that's true for addiction too, because you could buy cocaine, codeine over the fucking counter back then.
Yep.
Before it was heavily regulated.
Mm-hmm.
So what changed along the way, collectively, where there are more mass shootings and higher rates of addiction and everything? It's crazy just looking back and retrospect, how leftists want to blame guns and people on the right want to blame drugs and even psychedelics, which are
right. Eye-opening.
And safe. Yes, and experiment with your consciousness.
Yeah, they've been around a long time.
Exactly.
So maybe this is the society that we need to be looking out for that's influencing us.
Yeah.
But what is it ultimately? Is it the government through regulation and trying to control and manipulate our lives and get us to view things a certain way? The left-right dichotomy where you all of a sudden are split.
Keep us in that left-right dichotomy and keep us polarized and divided, of course. And it works to their advantage because nobody's paying attention to, or the vast majority of the populace or the tax cattle aren't paying attention to civil liberty infringements on the most basic matters when it comes to free speech and everything else, and that's very frustrating because
hardly anyone's involved, and if they are involved, they take the kind of altruistic stance. Is that the right word for it? I don't know. They want to just act like they're the greatest people on the goddamn planet because I have obviously the best position.
Virtue,
I see this.
Two things that piss me off so much.
Where there's virtue signaling
and partisanship / tribalism. Those two things are just so fucking bad, and it's nowhere more apparent than when it comes to the issue of immigration.
We are tribal.
I think for Democrats, because they're saying Trump is terrible. He's locking kids in cages. He's doing all these things, and it's like, well, where were you these?
What
last
have you been doing?
8 years before 2016, from 2008 to 2016, where Obama broke the fucking record when it came to deportations of undocumented immigrants. He expanded ICE as a concession to Republicans when he wasn't even asked to do so.
Yeah.
And so they're quiet on that, but since it's, hashtag Orange Man bad and Trump's in office, all of the problems of the past 4 decades are getting put on Trump.
Yeah.
And the immigration issue shows the bullshittiness, not even a word, but bullshittiness of the Democrats on that particular issue, especially when it comes to war as well.
Yeah.
And Obama's fucking drone war and, bombing 5 more countries than Bush did.
Yeah.
And his war on whistleblowers.
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
because the mainstream media and
absolutely.
all the left-wing news networks, obviously we don't need to run through every fucking one of them, but they all say like Trump is such an enemy of the press. He wants to bring us back to a Stalinist type regime,
Right.
or relationship with the press, but they say nothing of the fact that the Obama administration prosecuted more whistleblowers under the Espionage Act
Yeah.
than all previous presidential administrations combined, dating back to the creation of the Espionage Act.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah. Oh,
that's
I-
mind-blowing. And liberals have said nothing about that for 8 years previous to the 2016. Like in Obama's 2 terms, they said nothing of these issues, and now they're just coming out of the woodwork to roast him.
Right. All of this power was expanded under Obama. I do think about that too. It's like you realize the only reason he can do any of this is because Obama basically brought that into
Yeah.
to the light here, and then he's just following in his footsteps.
Exactly.
And now, yes, here you are. All of a sudden, it's like this isn't anything new.
Yeah.
Like I don't agree with it,
Yeah.
but it's like you almost end up defending Trump in a way because you just
Exactly.
gotta set the record straight. So then that makes it look like
Yeah.
I'm in support of this. Like, well, no, you gotta get the whole picture
You gotta
here.
be consistent. You can't be a partisan hack.
What I'm saying is government on the federal level should just be abolished, and we should
Absolutely.
just get rid of it. That would
Definitely.
be my argument. If anybody were to really ask me,
Yeah.
well, what's your solution? Let's dial some of this power back into the states, get rid of it at a federal level.
Of course.
Maybe,
Absolutely.
you need the military and all that jazz, but really, really draw that power back because what's the point?
And the idea that
Why do they need to be doing so, like, we could go on. There's a list of why are they doing this, but
and yeah, that's a great point to bring up, the abolition of the federal government. And it's funny when people say that we wouldn't be able to defend our shores, our homes, and our lands collectively if we didn't have the federal government, you know, with its massive bureaucracy and the Pentagon, defense contractors, no-bid defense contracts, all these fucking wars,
right.
you know, and all these drone strikes. It's like we need all that in order to be protected. It's like, no, I'm pretty sure we can have a militia-based system, especially in states like New Hampshire, Texas, Michigan, Alaska, places where the Second Amendment is, you know, pretty strong.
Yeah.
Wyoming, Colorado, Montana.
They really hang on to that.
Yeah,
Virginia.
Yeah, exactly. And you could privatize that, but nobody even considers that argument outside of libertarians. And so when you present that to them for the first time, they're just shocked by the idea. They can't even think about it.
Yeah.
The fact that we could privatize something which is so embedded
Right.
in, you know, the state.
Yeah, it's like imagining private police, but there are examples to look to of private policing that it's actually done a pretty decent job,
Exactly.
comparable or better to what we have in public policing.
Yeah.
So
God.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to really say that public policing is great. Like I'm really on the fence. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle where I can see the decent side to it all, but I also can see the horrific side to it.
Absolutely.
And it's just part of what comes with human nature, I think, is people will try to do good, but then at the same time, you'll get people that are going to act
The privatization of the police,
to benefit themselves.
it has to go hand in hand with privatization of like the military and everything else after the federal government is abolished. I mean, really, because privatizing police and, you know, the current enforcement class of the state is so crucial, because if you just focus on protection and security, well, that's what you would want in society, and be able to put your money toward different agencies or firms that you know may have your best interests or may spend your money better as it pertains to security and whatnot. But with the state, I mean, or with the state police, it's like all they do is hang out in a parking lot in Otsego, wait for somebody to go speeding,
Yeah.
and then they bust them for speeding.
They just be road pirates.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what they focus on instead of like working on cold cases, you know? I'd rather have them, every single one of us would rather have them work on cold cases and come up empty than have 6 cops within a 5-mile radius or no, probably like a 2-mile radius in
Right.
Otsego where it's super nice, nothing's really going on, no shootings or anything, nobody's stealing anything.
They're just pulling people over because they crossed this
Yeah.
line that they drew in
Exactly.
the sand.
So we would rather have them working on cold cases coming up empty than just pissing away time enforcing these dumbass traffic laws that don't actually, they don't actually save lives. We should have full vehicle autonomy by now. That goes without saying. That's another conversation completely.
Yeah. Well, it is complicated. I mean, I don't know if we could do it. We're damn close to it.
Yeah.
I think part of the issue is to have a system like that, you have to have enough data to be able to have the program run properly, because a lot of it is looking at previous examples of the car being in a certain situation, like, oh, all the cameras are telling me this, so the car needs to do this.
You bet.
And the only way you can do that is through basically trial and error.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can just roll out some sort of system like that and have it be perfect. It really does need all of the miles, the millions of miles of data, so that it knows
absolutely
what it's trying to do.
Definitely. And one of the big hindrances to, well, at least being on the road to implementing full vehicle autonomy was when I think the state said that Google couldn't test out its self-driving car about a decade ago.
Sure.
And so it hindered all testing on public roads and everything, which was crucial. It stifled the growth that I think we would have had by now.
Then you could say we would have it. I guess I'm just thinking
we would be like closer to having it than we are now.
Well, and
even though Tesla is like pushing the
we're basically
boundaries.
there, but we maybe could have been 5-10 years quicker because they slow down the progress because we didn't get to start doing this. Because I'm thinking of when did we actually start doing this, having cars on the road, collecting all of that data.
Dude, can we move the camera over here just a little bit? Because I'm like kind of out of the frame.
What happened?
Other way. There we go, dude. Perfect. Awesome. Just noticed that. Yeah, and it goes back to what I like to bring up. Well, I don't like bringing it up, but what happened with Phil Valley and how, Linda Louise Gullickson like answered a call and she wasn't proficient when she answered the call, or she wasn't really good with a phone behind the wheel, and then she unfortunately struck and killed him. There was a huge call for new mandates and harsher punishments when it comes to texting and driving. And to me, it was just a really misguided conversation because nobody said anything about, possibly promoting vehicle autonomy, which is, the technology is definitely there. It just needs more testing, more data. See if they want to go with radar, LiDAR, different kinds of sensors or whatever works. But yeah, and I don't know. Vehicle autonomy to me is so important because I know people who have been in crashes and died.
Yeah.
And I think in 30 years, people are going to look back and see that in America, it's anywhere from 32,000 to 40,000 Americans die in crashes every single year. They're going to look back and be like, what the fuck were they doing?
Yeah.
You mean humans actually drove vehicles? They drove.
Right.
And 40,000 people a year died.
We've had this technology since this point in time, and it took them that long to finally implement it.
Exactly. And that's where I think it comes back to the automotive industry. Like, how long have they sat on tech that could have saved lives?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Whereas they did all the testing, they did everything, but they just wanted to kind of leak it, drip it out a little bit so that they could eventually do the whole, added value, in the standard model of their vehicle each year. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, slowly roll it out so they have something new year after year.
Yeah.
And they really will wait to roll some things out because
oh god, yeah,
I'm driving in a brand new 2019 and then I go into a 2014 and it has all the same features, different brand, but it's just like maybe that's what this brand is doing versus what this brand was doing, and I can just see how one's kind of behind in a way. It's
definitely
this one seems to be 5-6 years ahead of you, and you don't even have this technology or this technology in there, and
for sure
simple stuff and maybe it's just a matter of, do they feel they want to have that like mirrors, no more mirrors on the side, it's just cameras. Cameras that are your left and right side. That's becoming more of a thing.
Definitely.
I'm sure you'll see that in the next couple of years where it's just standardized all of a sudden. But there have been cars that have had it already for a couple of years.
Yeah, man. Volvo and Tesla have really led the way when it comes to safety, and automotive industry.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I read somewhere, I think there was a video I watched on YouTube, where in Gothenburg, Sweden, I think that's the headquarters of Volvo. If there's a crash involving one of their vehicles, they immediately have 2 engineers on site just to figure out what happened.
Yeah.
When it comes to, did something go wrong? How was, the collision?
Sure.
In terms of the physics of it and everything. And
was it a malfunction of some sort?
Yeah.
User
definitely.
error? What was it? Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we have fucking GM in America,
Yeah.
with their ignition
We're
switch
winning.
recall that, they knew about but said nothing. And then, the
Yeah.
punitive damage from that whole, conglomerate or series of lawsuits should have been so much more.
Yeah.
As if
Well,
GM has a pot in which to piss.
How do we not have more car manufacturers? Is it because of regulation, would you probably say? Would it be too hard for anybody to get approved for their vehicle just because there'd be so much red tape?
Probably.
They can't
That's
get
definitely a huge part of it.
the proper licenses or patents, approvals, whatever you might need.
I think
Not
that's kind of
patents.
caked and baked into what Elon says when he's talking about the competitiveness and the competition seen in the automotive industry.
Right.
And people like to rag on Elon and Tesla Motors for taking subsidies. It's like, well, which automotive company hasn't?
Yeah.
Really?
Right.
Over the past 75, 80 years.
And I remember that used to bother me, but then
Same.
I just kind of got to a certain point where I'm just like, I'm kind of thinking like you. It's like, well, when the game is set up a certain way, why would you make it? Everyone else is doing this, and it's helping them get ahead.
Yeah.
And then you're going to take this route that makes it significantly harder for you because you're what?
Yep.
You're trying to just prove something. It's like, awesome. We'll give you a pat on the back. Never mind that you're making electric vehicles trying to save the planet, because that's what people would say that that's what you're doing, even though the cobalt, lithium, all
cobalt
that
supply is
shit.
dwindling in the Congo. Yes.
So I just feel like, what's the point of demonizing him? Because overall, he's trying to do something good.
Yeah.
You could say.
When it comes to innovation and the number of patents, they've opened up quite a number of their patents, which is nice to see. It's like he's changing the fucking future, because Tesla's market cap, I think, or market share is now more greater than GM's and Ford's combined.
Yeah,
It's like
it's up
$93
there.
billion after he just opened up, I think, another gigafactory in China, or the first one, and then he started rolling out Model 3s and Model S's.
Yep.
It's changing the game, but that's another question: is the cobalt? It's fucking
Yeah.
the power density of those battery packs need to increase so that they can get the same amount of energy from them
Yeah.
by using maybe 1/3 of what they are now.
We're kind of screwed, I think.
We need to mine asteroids.
I mean,
trust
we would have to do something like that. I just don't see how electric cars are the future, because resources are finite.
Yeah, unless they really want to develop solid state batteries which last longer and have 4 or 5 times the power density, I think, of certain types of batteries. Unless, and if there's a good supply of the resources or raw materials that go into those batteries and battery packs, I don't see it happening.
What if we just had mini nuclear reactors in every car?
The deployment of small modular thorium reactors in our back fucking yards. That's what I'm talking about, baby. That's what I'm talking about. It's gonna happen.
Just tiny little ones. You
it's
wouldn't
gonna
need
happen.
something serious. Yeah.
But when we talk about Tesla Motors getting subsidy or not being able to say no to subsidies, essentially, and just saying yes, and how it kind of pisses us off a little bit as anarchists, libertarians, voluntarists, whatever we are.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the nuclear industry, because for so long, fossil fuels and renewables have gotten massive and disproportionate amounts of subsidies, or numbers of subsidies. I mean, it's really incalculable over the past century and a half. It's probably in the trillions of dollars, really.
Sure.
And so, and nuclear, which early on had a bit of investment from the state, but not significant in financial terms, dollars. If nuclear doesn't get bailed out, it plays into the hands of the fossil fuel industry, which has benefited from a century and a half of subsidies.
Handouts.
Exactly. So I think it's really unfair that nuclear has to beg for subsidies when, if the nuclear fleet in America went down, it would just fall right into the hands of coal and natural gas industry.
And then it would take off from there.
Yeah, exactly. And then it would just be all natural gas with a few new coal plants built in America. So that's why, I mean, I'm because on principle, it's like, yes, we should end subsidies, but at the same time, what's fair? You know?
Yeah.
Because our nuclear fleet is dying, and we need to go to the fourth generation reactors,
right?
And breeder reactors, and
get to the fourth
thorium.
gen.
Yeah, exactly.
What I would like to see is because it's not that I wouldn't want my money to go towards helping something like that get off the ground a little bit.
Yeah.
Really start to take shape. I could see where the funding would be necessary, so you need to get some sort of help along the way. So it's not like I wouldn't want to do that, but could it be more voluntary where
I would hope that would be the goal.
Like Kickstarters and stuff like that. Go fund me. Like the amount of things that people can get funded.
Yeah.
The full amount that they're asking for.
Yeah.
Thousands of dollars because they want to just move or take a trip or do this, like just simple things that they want to do with their life. Like,
definitely.
I imagine that if there was a GoFundMe because we want to make a new power source that's going to change the world, it's like,
could totally do it.
Who's not going to get on board with something like that? So
definitely.
Would that be better? I mean,
absolutely.
to cut down the amount we're taxed, we could have more dollars in our pockets, and we decide where it goes to, rather than here's a bunch of bureaucrats that then just funnel it into their own pockets or their own offshore accounts through whatever business they buddied up with. And
for sure.
Then what do you do? I mean, wouldn't you rather have more control?
Oh, absolutely. And if renovations and repairs and fixes in nuclear power plants can be voluntarily paid for, that's excellent. But from a private investment perspective and whatnot, no bank is going to say, or no partnership or company or entity is going to say, we're going to invest $10 billion into a nuclear plant when we can invest $300 million in a natural gas plant and nuclear goes under. And then it's just natural gas all around, and obviously air pollution that goes with everything there in the vicinity. Not in general, like, you know, with pollution everywhere, man, climate change, but just in the vicinity of natural gas plants and coal plants. It would be a lot better to, have at least try to get nuclear on the same level, which wouldn't even be possible, considering how much the fossil fuel industry has received in subsidies.
I think that's a good explanation for why we're so fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, we grew up right next to a nuclear plant and a coal plant between Becker and Monticello.
Yep.
Just think of how much we were exposed to.
Oh, yeah. And and everybody who lives near a nuclear plant knows how safe it is and how clean the air is from it.
Yeah.
Nobody's scared of it, but the government's own propaganda and all the propaganda from renewable energy companies and these environmentalists and Greenpeace and Sierra Club trying to say that nuclear is, dangerous, it's unclean, and, the dry cask storage isn't safe and somebody can easily get into it.
Yeah.
Or, a massive EMP somehow coordinated by a few people could take out a nuclear power plant. All that fear-mongering has hindered nuclear along with government regulations for certain reactors.
That fear is real.
Built for certain reactors.
Many times I've told people, I grew up right next to a nuclear power plant. I actually grew up on the outside of Monticello on that side of town. So, I had to drive by it all the time.
Yeah.
My dad even worked there for a while.
Yeah.
It's not like I knew everything about it. But I knew it wasn't that dangerous.
Exactly.
And what we knew was what to do in an oh shit situation. Yeah. Take these potassium pills or whatever it was.
Exactly. And once every 2 or 3 years at school, They would say, okay, if there's a nuclear meltdown, you got to get in the bus, and you go to Little Mountain, and take an iodine pill or whatever, and then come back. And then we would get on the bus, go to Little Mountain, and then just come back to the high school. It's like less than a mile drive.
Right. It's like we knew what we needed to do in the oh shit situation.
Yeah.
But we also knew it's like that's highly unlikely. Yeah. And you would probably want to know that at any other plant too, if you're right next to something. Like in Superior, there was that. I don't even know.
Husky Energy, like oil.
Yeah, the oil
explosion.
place just blew up.
Yeah, that was fucking crazy. That was intense.
Yeah, and the whole city got evacuated. Yeah. So it's not like that's perfect.
Yeah, it's weird how more people didn't die. I don't even know if anybody died in that. And cause
I don't know.
We saw it on. I saw a video of it on Care 11 and the smoke fumes and everything. I'm like, holy fuck! Like, in that building.
I was up at work, so I'm in Duluth, up the hill. You could see the flames.
Yeah.
You could see them coming up. Like, it was massive fire. You could see all of that from miles away.
Yeah.
So it is surprising that nobody...
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe somebody died there, but no, I don't know. I thought no one was in the building when it happened.
They got super lucky. Everybody was on break.
Everybody was out.
They were in blast-proof buildings.
Oh my god.
Everybody was in blast-proof buildings. Wow.
Like that happens, though, but just to reinforce your point, they were in reinforced buildings built to withstand blasts. So
Yeah.
It's a dangerous freaking place.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's
But
dealing with volatile chemicals.
Well, it's a good thing that nothing happened, but that is wild.
The Greens want to make it sound like something like that could happen at a nuclear power plant, and there's a high probability. I mean, it's all fear-mongering coming from them, and they'll just say Chernobyl or Fukushima, but those are actually incidents where it proves how safe nuclear is when you look at even with how shitty the bureaucracy of the Soviet Union was, which essentially led to what happened at Chernobyl. Yes, there were some technical issues and fuck-ups. I read a really good book on it, and it kind of goes in depth about the Soviet bureaucracy that led to it and all the decisions and how they knew about that happening at another reactor a few years earlier, but didn't really say anything for that graphite moderated reactor at Chernobyl, that like Unit 4 that went down. It's so fucked. Just absolutely ridiculous. I fucking hate environmentalists, man. I hate them more than feminists. I hate them more than war girls. I hate them more than Jets fans. Because they're so unrealistic about everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Goddamn hippies.
A good portion of hippies, yes.
Yeah. Well, what do you do about those sorts of people? Because that's becoming a stronger ideology. More and more people are getting on board with it.
Yeah, Greta Thunberg.
They feel like they're getting a stronger argument. Yeah.
How dare you?
How dare you? I feel like they're getting a lot of people, they say the 97% of all scientists agree, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. They get all these...
97% of all scientists agree that humans have caused some warming or have had some contribution. That was one of the worst studies ever. Yeah. And it's ridiculous. I mean, that consensus, and along with the hockey stick graph and the tree ring data, it's all been... disproven. It's so fucking stupid, but we have to keep going over it and just informing people about this massive wave of propaganda coming from mainly the left or the leftist environmentalists who say nuclear's bad, renewables are fucking excellent. Look what we did in Germany, which is a failed experiment compared with next door neighbor France, which runs on nuclear essentially. Over 75% of its electricity comes from nuclear.
Right. Perfect examples.
Yeah, and that's what that's the fuel that really drives it, is people being stupid and them just regurgitating the same talking points over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how do they not realize this? Like we just said, you get those two perfect examples of all of that. And do they not even hear themselves when we go over year after year, this is happening to the planet. This is happening to the planet. Well, and they got to keep changing. Like, by this year, this is going to happen. By this year, this
At Glacier National Park, they just took down the sign that said it's going to be glacier-free
all these
by
glaciers
2020.
are going to be gone, except they're not. So how do we... how much do we really know? Because we used to think, oh, we're gonna launch bombs into the atmosphere in the 60s, and now 60 years later we got it all figured out, even though we were totally wrong with what we were trying to do.
What of the population bomb? It was, I can't remember if it was an article or book written by Paul Ehrlich or John Holdren, one of the two guys, but he makes these ridiculous predictions in the early 70s, early 80s, maybe late 70s. I don't know. So it's like, there are going to be millions dying from climate change, and Britain's going to be underwater, and everybody's going to be poor, and like we're not going to have enough food. The Earth is going to reach its carrying capacity. And this was just a few years before or after they said that the Earth was going to go through an ice age.
Yeah,
that was a huge push from scientists in the 70s.
Yeah.
Time magazine had, I think, 1 or 2 covers showing that we're headed for the deep freeze.
Ice age is coming. Yeah.
But when environmentalists and the Greens say, it's the warmest year in recorded history. Well, we've only been recording it for what, like average global surface temperature data since like 1880 or something like that. But it's like, how far back do you want to go?
Over 100 years.
Yeah. Do you want to go back to, the Younger Dryas period? Mm-hmm. Do you want to go back to a few 100,000 years? How far do you want to go back? Because the climate has always changed, and the tool that has produced the most change has been the sun.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if we are the catalyst for some sort of change, is the change that we're bringing about bad?
Yeah.
Do we know that it's bad?
Yeah.
Like, is it the sun that's doing the bad parts that we're seeing? Are we providing some sort of good? Because we're having global greening.
Yeah, global greening.
Because of what we're doing.
Yeah, according to NASA. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so just, could we be having... Because that's what I don't understand. We're releasing all of this plant food into the atmosphere, and it's terrible for the planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that essentially the argument?
Yeah, that's their argument, that plants don't love carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
That you're not going to get higher crop yields if there are more atmospheric carbon emissions.
Right.
Which is completely false.
Right.
The Earth is literally fucking greening, according to NASA.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
And they use this point of 400 parts per million is like, we just passed this line in the sand. It's like, well, we're fucked now. Yeah. It's like, how do you know
that?
It's
so arbitrary. It's such an arbitrary number.
Right. Because if that was so bad, like, you should be getting sick fairly often, because I think that a lot of rooms that you would spend time in would be at least 400 parts per million.
Yeah.
If not closer to 700.
Any different. 375 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere from 435 parts per million. There's no difference, really.
Yeah.
None. In effect.
Yeah. That's why I'm just like...
We live in a carbon-starved planet. Many people will tell you this. Paleoclimatologists will tell you this.
Yeah. So you could then make the argument that we're doing good for the planet with our certain lifestyles.
Absolutely. Definitely.
I don't see how it's been just completely catastrophic, because... we make all these wild predictions that don't come true.
Yeah.
Because we
want to
act like we know it.
Tank entire economies premised on those failed predictions.
Yeah, exactly. We want to tank the economy based on just our wild theories, based on maybe 100 so years worth of data to understand the way the planet, which is over 4 billion years old, and how it functions. We're going to take 100 years of data, and we're going to know exactly what's going to happen with the planet now.
Yep.
Because we somehow can just figure it out.
We're going to tank entire
based
economies,
on that.
have no growth economies for decades, so that we could maybe make the atmosphere like
1%.
1% like cooler.
Yes.
Over the projected increase, whatever.
1% of our ultimate goal, because that's what the Paris Agreement was. Yeah. The agreement was, we are going to get 1% of the way. We're going to spend well over $1 trillion, and we're going to get 1% of our goal. Like, how pathetic is that?
Well, and the funny part is...
we have 99% to go.
All the news outlets at the time when Trump pulled out of the Paris Climate Accords or Agreement, they were like, there are only 2 countries on the face of the planet who haven't signed the Climate Paris Accords. Syria, or who are in the Paris Climate Accords, Syria and the United States of America. It's like, China and India are in the Paris... I'm pretty sure they signed them. China and India are funding so many coal projects around the world. It's fucking insane. I think I read one article that said China between like 2020 and 2040 or something like that is going to fund over 300 coal projects in China and around the world, many of them in Africa.
Jesus.
And India, well, India is like China. They're going all of the above for like renewables, nuclear, natural gas, coal, everything really. And India and China have like what, 8 or 9 of the 10 most polluted cities on the fucking planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Just living in New Delhi, India, when pollution was really bad a few months ago, really bad. It's the equivalent of inhaling like 3 or 4 packs of cigarettes, for fuck's sake.
Jesus.
Like, the industrial pollution in China and India is just insane. But they signed the Paris Climate Accords.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
They
somebody
signed
asked me
that
if I wanted to go
paper.
to India, I would say fuck no.
Yeah.
If somebody asked me if I wanted to go to Beijing or maybe those or anywhere near those rare earth metal dump sites in northwestern China, I would say fuck no.
Right.
No thanks.
Well-
you can't find any place like that in America that's so like overly polluted.
No, I
can't-
mean, besides feces.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
well,
that's-
Portland and San
that's
Francisco.
a whole other thing, but
Maybe I would rather
Yeah.
go to Beijing than fucking Portland or San Francisco with all the shit and the needles.
no, I don't think you want to do that. But I don't see how that agreement made much of a difference, because you have these United States companies that are lowering their emissions just because they're doing it on their
Exactly.
own.
Yeah.
They don't need
Natural-
some sort of
natural
paper
gas-
to tell them to do it.
Exactly. Natural gas has been a great bridge fuel. It only has half the pollutants of coal.
Yeah.
It's excellent. It's fantastic, but it's still relative to nuclear, of course, like pollutes a fuck ton in the immediate vicinities of those plants.
Yeah.
Whereas nuclear is obviously clean, but the upfront cost, it's fucking insanely expensive. I think Hinkley Point C, it's a new reactor or site that's going up in England.
Oh yeah.
Additional like cost runs and everything, it's going to be close to like $30 billion.
What?
It's pretty fucking crazy. Yeah.
$30 billion.
We like we were saying earlier, small modular thorium reactors in our cars, in our yards, and in our fucking basements.
Hell
That's what I'm
yeah.
talking about, fam.
Hell yeah. You just got to go buy like this
Fucking-
little like green glowing rod, and you have to wear these gloves and
Yeah.
insert it into your
You
car.
bet.
And
Oh yeah.
you're good for another year or so.
I think it's something crazy like a half ounce of thorium would be enough to run a car for 100 years or something.
Are you serious?
So, yeah, something like that. There was this thorium concept
Wow.
car that was pretty fucking sick, and I'd take it over my Rio if I had a Stuart Mills III type trust fund.
Yeah.
I would. I'd buy fucking 5 of them. 5 thorium cars. How you would get so much ass and pussy. Jesus. Hey, yeah, I'll
lot.
park my thorium car.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Powered by nuclear fission. No big deal.
Yeah, you heard that.
No big deal.
It's only a little bomb. I'm driving around.
It's mom as fuck.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Think about how risky that is.
Yeah.
How sexy is that, ladies? Risking my life driving this bomb down the streets.
Isn't it funny when the Greens say we should ban fossil fuels? They hold up signs made of plastic, have plastic water bottles,
Yeah.
are standing on asphalt roads maybe,
Yeah.
but we got to ban fossil fuels. It's like, how the fuck would you get to Europe? How would you get to Japan? You gonna sail?
Yep.
You gonna sail for months? Do you have that much time? Are you Greta fucking Thunberg?
I'm gonna row a goddamn boat across the
Take a
fucking
clipper or a
ocean.
schooner or fucking schooner, whatever that's called.
Yeah.
Like one of those Dutch boats from the 17th or 16th century. That'd be badass, but that would suck if you had to do it every time and you had no other choice.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to.
No, I would not want to.
I don't mind planes. I don't mind fossil fuels. I
No,
don't
and-
see why they're so bad.
Yeah, exactly. We have such an abundance. We're not running out of fossil fuels, or we're not running out of oil. We're running into oil.
Yeah, we found
The pockets,
more.
Yeah, just the pockets of natural gas they have in Qatar. I think it's the most per capita of any country on Earth. I mean, it's like 25 trillion cubic meters, maybe 40 trillion. I don't know,
Wow.
give or take. But it's so much. It's so abundant.
Wow.
It's insane.
Well, yeah, we have resources to power us for quite some time.
Definitely.
I remember hearing that we're gonna run out by a certain time.
Peak oil.
I mean, that's
what was
always
it, like 73, 74 peak oil.
yeah.
There was the
it's always
Saudi oil
something.
crisis, yeah.
You need to vote. You need to do this. You need to act this way. Otherwise, the world's gonna end.
Yep.
I mean, that is a strong motivator. Thinking that the world is
Yep.
going to come to an
And
end.
it's powerful when
Yeah.
politics is in play as well.
Yeah.
Because you can just push that narrative and it becomes popular and people don't really question it. If you question it, you're a denier, like a Holocaust denier. What are you, a climate change denier? No, I actually believe that the climate has always changed for 4.5 billion fucking years when you look at the paleoclimatological charts.
Yeah. I just deny the mainstream narrative
Yeah.
that you're pushing.
Yeah.
And you want me to vote
Yeah.
X because of
We need
all of this.
Ryan, we need to reduce our carbon footprint so Leonardo DiCaprio can take 2 or 3 private jet flights in the same day and then
needs another
go on a
yacht,
private yacht.
God damn it.
And Al Gore. What was that article? Al Gore's home in Tennessee uses like 34 times the average consumer's
Yeah.
amount of electricity in a month or something.
Right. And just like yard lights and
Yeah, and
everything it takes to power.
I remember
just
before we got
general
heat for that,
lighting.
almost none of it was renewable.
Yeah. Yeah, and the dude became worth over like $300 million
Yeah.
or something.
Yep. And until a few years ago, I don't even think he owned a Tesla or anything.
Right.
Because it would be sustainable for the owner, not necessarily, for society or
Right.
civilization at large because of the cobalt used in it. But it's he's such a fucking hypocrite, and you have to be so full of shit. Like when Prince Harry gave a speech, I think, I can't remember where, I don't know if it was Denmark or where it was, about the need to do something on climate change, and he took a fucking private jet there.
Yep. Well, that seems to be the trend there.
Yeah, and
Everybody
I don't
take your
blame
private
him.
jets.
I don't blame
to
him. If
talk about the climate.
If I ever become famous or a celebrity, of course I'm flying. I'm not flying commercial, but I'm also not going to virtue signal.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Right.
You know?
Well, yeah. I mean, is that the pot calling the kettle black?
Yeah.
I mean, is that what you'd basically sum that up as? When
I'd
you
say
start treading those waters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't agree with it at all. I don't agree with environmentalists. I'm gonna have to agree with you with they're worse than woo girls. They're worse than feminists. But
we'll tackle feminism on another podcast.
the environmental feminists
Absolutely.
are probably the worst, especially when they're
God.
men. They're all
God.
long haired beards.
Yeah,
that-
man. We just gotta not tell her and
Yup.
just bike everywhere and hit all back into an outpost or an attack or something. And, just kind of rake some hay or straw.
And that
it's
picture,
organic.
that picture where they'll have a whole bunch of them and they're all making the same face and they have their mouth hanging open with the way they're smiling. It's holy shit. You guys are all the same.
It's a fucking echo chamber.
It's kind of scary.
If somebody thinks nuclear's bad and it's dangerous and it's stupid, well, we have data to back it up. That it's actually safe. That it's actually reliable and secure and the waste is taken care of.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to debate us on that, feel free to come on the podcast and we'll get you in on an episode. All of you Greens out there who are hiding, sniveling behind bushes. And
Yeah, I mean,
fucking
I've tried to
trees.
organize some sit downs with people, and it every single person for sure has just said no. Nobody wants to sit down and have a real conversation about this stuff because it's easier, where there is virtue signal, especially when it's online. But if you want to really,
that virtue signal, baby. Oh yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, but
Let's ban styrofoam, ban plastic bags, ban fossil fuels,
yeah,
ban chlorofluorocarbons.
just
Let's
make more
ban
trips
everything.
to and from your car.
Yeah.
Burn calories.
Yeah.
Well, I would like somebody to actually come on and debate.
I want to get an anti-nuke on here so bad. If Bill McKibben, if you are watching, Bill McKibben, Al Gore, Leonardo DiCaprio,
Al Gore.
fucking Mark Ruffalo.
Al
Let's
Gore.
get the Hulk on here. If any of you are watching, come on the podcast. Let's just have a conversation.
Anyone from Hollywood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll wreck you.
Let's go.
Through argument. Not going to physically fight you. I don't think I could beat Mark Ruffalo the Hulk.
No.
I couldn't.
I wouldn't try.
Yeah, no.
He goes green, man. It's terrifying.
But they're never going to debate about nuclear.
No.
That's why the topic of nuclear hasn't even entered the mainstream when it comes to celebrities talking about sustainable energy. It's because they're pushing renewables, and renewables are actually going hand in hand with oil companies and natural gas companies, because how do you power the lights when the sun isn't shining and the wind isn't blowing? This is why Greenpeace and the Sierra Club have received millions from like ExxonMobil and some other fossil fuel companies. Mm-hmm. But nobody brings that up. That's the real conspiracy. Of course, I gotta put on my tinfoil hat, but
follow the money, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that money talks.
Yeah.
It's usually all you gotta look at.
yeah, for sure, dude. Well, should we call it good?
I think we can wrap this one up.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Nux. Boom.
Hell yeah. Feldman. Richter. Better be on here next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gary, we're talking to you, bitch.
Or Oh.
Bitch.
We need somebody else to be just against us. We can't just have this constant, like, yep, I agree with
Just
you.
just
We need
let's
somebody
start a
that does
comment
not
section
agree.
on YouTube if you think we're wrong. That's fine. Excellent. We'd love to have a conversation. We really would.
Yeah. I mean,
We're not going to shout. We're not going to.
I'm open to seeing what I'm missing,
There won't be
especially when it
alcohol
comes to
involved,
the
so we're not gonna
environment.
shout.
Yeah. But somebody, I mean, we know some people, and we know that
I know
you
people
probably
who
are
hate
watching
nuclear,
this.
and they won't fucking. They're hiding.
You're,
They're hiding.
yeah, just do it. Call us, email us, basedbasement@gmail.com. It's official. This is pretty serious, guys, so come on the show. We'd love to have you.